A world-class leader goes for a dip and never returns. A brilliant inventor vanishes from a moving train car. A pilot's jet literally merges with a UFO on radar and blinks out of existence. These aren't glitches in a sci-fi flick. They are real chapters of history where famous people simply exited reality, leaving no forward address. Number 1. Being a head of state usually means you can't buy a candy bar without a security team. Yet in 1967, Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt pulled off the ultimate vanishing act. He went for a swim at Cheviot Beach, a spot with currents so aggressive they could steal your shoes. Witnesses saw him wade into the surf, and then nothing. Despite one of the biggest search missions in Aussie history, not a single trace was found. The boring answer is he drowned, but the public had better ideas. Was it a hit? A staged exit? My favorite is the theory that Holt was a secret agent and a Chinese submarine surfaced just long enough to vacuum him up. It's a B-movie plot, but it beats Man Swims Poorly any day. Number 2. Thomas Boston Corbett is so strange he feels like a typo in a history book. He's the soldier who shot Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, but his personal life was even more unhinged. A religious fanatic, he once castrated himself with a pair of scissors to stay pure. After the Booth shooting, his paranoia skyrocketed. He was eventually locked in an asylum, but Corbett wasn't a fan of the decor. He escaped, stole a pony, and galloped into the Kansas horizon. He was never seen again. Think about that. The man who ended the biggest manhunt in U.S. history ended his own story by riding a small horse into a permanent sunset. Number 3. If you're going to vanish, D.B. Cooper wrote the textbook. In 1971, a well-dressed man hijacked a Boeing 727, calmly ordered a bourbon, and handed the stewardess a note about the bomb in his briefcase. He demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. Once he got them, he had the plane take off into a midnight thunderstorm. Somewhere over the dense, freezing forests of the Pacific Northwest, he jumped out the back with a bag of cash. The FBI chased his ghost for decades, but he didn't just escape. He checked out of the universe with a level of swagger that has never been replicated. Number 4. Sometimes the universe gives you a giant spoiler. In 1969, folk singer Jim Sullivan released an album called UFO. The lyrics were all about driving into the desert and being abducted by aliens. Fast forward to 1975, Jim is driving through the New Mexico desert when he disappears. His VW Beetle was found on a dirt road with his wallet, his guitar, and his clothes inside. But Jim? Gone. It's one thing to get lost, but leaving your guitar behind? It's almost like he finally got called up for that interstellar gig he'd been singing about for years. Number 5. In the 1950s, Connie Converse was writing songs that were decades ahead of their time. Deep, brilliant, and completely ignored. By 1974, she'd had enough of being overlooked. She wrote goodbye letters to her family, packed her things into her Volkswagen, and drove away. She was never heard from again. There was no foul play or mystery, just a quiet, deliberate deletion of her own existence. She chose to become a ghost, leaving only her haunting melodies to prove she was ever here.
Number 6. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse sits on a jagged rock in the North Atlantic, and in 1900 it became a real-life horror movie. A passing ship noticed the light was out. When a crew arrived, the place was empty. 3 keepers had vanished. A meal was sitting half-eaten on the table. One man's heavy coat was still on its hook, meaning he'd run out into a freezing storm without it. The logs mentioned the men were weeping before they disappeared. They vanished from a locked building on a tiny island, leaving behind a terrifying snapshot of a moment interrupted by something unknown. Number 7. This is either a tragedy or the greatest corporate heist ever. In the 1880s,
British inventor William Cantello was secretly building a revolutionary machine gun. Then he emptied his bank account and vanished. Shortly after, an American named Hiram Maxim showed up in London with the Maxim gun, the exact weapon Cantello was building. Cantello's own kids were convinced Maxim was actually their dad, living under a new name with his stolen invention. Did William vanish, or did he just rebrand himself into a billionaire? Number 8. Amelia Earhart is the poster child for disappearances. Most assume she crashed in the Pacific in 1937, but the theories are much wilder. Was she a spy captured by the Japanese, or did she survive and become a New Jersey housewife named Irene Bolam? The idea of a global icon of adventure spending her golden years quietly pruning roses in the suburbs is the ultimate plot twist. Number 9. Judge Joseph Force Crater didn't just go missing, he became a verb. In 1930s New York, if you disappeared, you pulled a crater. This Supreme Court justice had dinner with friends, hopped into a taxi, and evaporated. He'd just withdrawn a massive pile of cash and burned a bunch of secret documents. Was he whacked by the mob, or did he flee the country with a secret lover? He became the missingest man in New York and a permanent part of the city's slang. Number 10. You aren't supposed to just vanish when you're a Rockefeller. But Michael Rockefeller wasn't interested in money. He was an anthropologist in New Guinea. In 1961, his boat flipped. He told his friend he was swimming for shore and disappeared into the surf. The official word was drowning, but that coast was home to the Asmat people, a tribe known for headhunting. The grim theory is that the heir to one of the world's greatest fortunes was killed and eaten, a brutal collision of two very different worlds. 11. Imagine being the world's most famous mystery writer and then becoming the lead character in your own thriller. In 1926, Agatha Christie vanished for 11 days. Her car was found abandoned by a lake, sparking a massive manhunt. She was eventually found at a luxury hotel, checked in under the name of her husband's mistress, claiming amnesia. Was it a breakdown, a stunt, or the most elite passive-aggressive revenge plot ever pulled on a cheating spouse? It was Gone Girl 70 years before the book existed. Number 12. The case of pilot Felix Moncla is genuinely unsettling. In 1953, he was sent to intercept a UFO over Lake Superior. Radar operators watched in shock as Moncla's jet and the unidentified object moved closer and closer. Then the two blips merged into one single dot on the screen, which then zipped away at impossible speed. No wreckage was ever found. The radar suggests his plane didn't crash, it was swallowed. Number 13. In 1944, Glenn Miller was the biggest star on the planet, the Taylor Swift of the big band era. He took off in a small plane to fly from England to Paris for a USO show and simply ceased to exist. No distress call, no debris, nothing. For a celebrity to vanish in one of the most monitored stretches of sky during a world war is an enduring enigma that still has no answer. Number 14. Barbara Newhall Follett was a literary prodigy who published her first novel at 13, but the pressure of fame crushed her. At 25, she had a fight with her husband, walked out of their apartment with $30 in her pocket, and never came back. Her husband didn't even report her missing for 2 weeks. Did the girl who created worlds with words finally decide to go live in one of them? Number 15. Roald Amundsen was a titan who conquered the South Pole. He was invincible, which makes his end so ironic. In 1928, his rival crashed an airship in the Arctic. Despite hating the guy, Amundsen flew out to save him and disappeared into the fog. The man who mastered the poles was finally consumed by the wilderness he once called his own. We've only scratched the surface of history's most bizarre exits. The archives are full of people who walked out of the room and out of reality forever. So I'm turning it over to you. What's the one chilling disappearance you're shouting at the screen right now? Make your case in the comments. If you're obsessed with these unsolved files, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive.